Hey friends, it's Len down at 1A Auto. Today I'm going to be showing you a simple job. We're going to be replacing an alternator. We're going to be doing it on a 2016 Ram 1500 Hemi. It's going to be a very easy job. I want to be the guy that shows you how to do it. So if you need any parts, you can always come down to 1A Auto and check us out. Thanks. So here we go. We got the hood up. We're going to come over here. What we're going to have to do is we're going to remove this air intake system right here. So first what I like to do is remove any electrical components to make sure that we don't put any tugs on any wiring. I'll just put it down and out of the way. We're probably going to have to move it again because we're going to have to relieve pressure from here. But anyway, our next step, there's a clamp down here that holds the air intake system down to the intake right there. So I'm going to grab my little 8mm. If you have access to something like this with an extension, it might be helpful. If not, you can just try to get there. Either way, you're going to remove this clamp. We don't need to take it all the way off. We just need it to be loose enough to be able to get that air intake hose up off. You can also use a flathead screwdriver. It's all preferential. I like to use a socket. Okay, I'm gonna grab it, give it a little wiggle, comes right up. We'll take a peek inside. Just make sure that there's no dirt, debris, water, anything like that. And we wanna make sure that nothing gets in there also. So if you end up dropping a nut or a bolt, make sure that it doesn't get in there. I'm gonna grab a rag. I'm just gonna cover that real quick. And we're gonna come over here. We're gonna remove that. Some people say you don't need to cover it because the butterfly's closed anyway. You know, that's up to you. Why risk it, right? I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna grab this hose. I'm gonna try to wiggle it around, see if I can break it free. There we are. Next, I'm gonna relieve these clamps. If you have access to a small screwdriver or even a pry bar of some sort or a screwdriver, you can go ahead and do this. Basically, we're just pulling the clamps away from the box itself. There should be one on the front, two on the side, and one on the rear. I can't see it, but I'm just gonna try to see if I can grab it. There we are. I'm gonna grab this. I'm gonna push it this way while lifting up, and I'll show you why. Under here, there's these holes. In the other part of the box, there's little male ends. Those go into this side. So that's the reason why I had to lift up and push over to slide those out. Now we can take our system, we can remove it. We can also take a peek at this sensor while we're here. We'll just make sure that the connections aren't corroded or green or any funny color that they shouldn't be. Metal's always a nice color. You can look inside, you can see what the sensor is supposed to look like in there. If it looks like it's dirty, black, gunked up, you can either replace it or clean it with a special cleaner. That's a service for another day. I'll set this aside safely. Next thing I like to do, some people won't say that you have to do this at all, but I do it. I'm gonna get this air filter right out of the way. The reason for that is because while I'm working up here, if any dirt or debris falls in this part of the air filter, well, the air filter is not gonna be filtering that because this is the side that the air comes sucked in through the air filter box, right in through here, comes up through your air filter, all these little fins right here, they collect your dirt and debris. Anything that's on this side, well, that's just getting sucked up into your engine. Let's be safe. We'll put it out of the way. I'm gonna grab this cover. It's gonna be very simple. I'm just gonna lift up. There we are. On the rear, there's no things to lift up. That's kind of more of a pull out. So here we go. I'll show you under here. We got two rubbers. Those go onto a prong right here. And there's another prong over here. The reason why I had to pull out is because there's prongs on the backside, and those go into the backside on the engine right there, or onto the intake, I should say. So we're gonna set this aside. We'll move on to the next step. Okay, so here we go. We get that removed over there. We're gonna come over to the battery side, making sure that the key's in the off position, or completely out of the ignition, preferably. We're gonna come over to the negative battery terminal, which is the side opposite than the red, okay? We're gonna use a 10mm. We're gonna turn this nut counterclockwise to remove the negative battery terminal from the battery and set it aside, making sure that it can't come free from wherever you put it and hit up against this negative. Once you start removing this, you don't wanna go off, on, off, on, off, on, off, on a whole bunch of times. Basically just take it off, get it away, keep it away. When it's time to put it back on, you might feel a little bit, or you might see and hear a little bit of an arc. Don't get worried and take it back off and then try to go again. Just put it right on, okay? Now we're going to be very careful, making sure that the positive's completely covered. You don't want to touch anything like from the negative to the positive. If you're using some sort of extension with a long ratchet or whatever you've got, and you bring this down and you touch the positive, well, you're going to arc it out. You're probably going to weld all the pieces together, maybe even get a little zap. So I'm going to get my... The reason why I'm removing the negative and not the positive, let me just get this off of here real quick, and I'll continue that. There we go. I'm going to set this right aside. Excuse me. The reason why I removed the negative and not the positive is because if I was removing the positive and I happen to touch my ratchet onto here if it was longer, well then we're going to do the same thing as basically touching from here to here, right? I'm going to go like this. I might touch it to a ground of some sort, in which is going to cause an arc, possibly blow a fuse, mess up your electrical system. We don't want any of that. Let's just be safe. We're going to go with the negative. Now there's no juice going to the truck. So you can go in, try to turn on your radio, you can do whatever you want. Sorry, your music's not going to work. You disconnected the battery. So here we go. We're going to move on to the next step. So next we're going to take the serpentine belt off. It's this right here, little rubber. You want to pay attention to the way that it's in here. If you have a cell phone, you can snap a picture of it, or you can draw it if you're an artist, that's fine too. Or even just look at this video a couple times, I'm sure it'll show you how to do it. So here we go. I'm going to try to put this little tool right here, which is basically just the same as a 3/8 ratchet. You can either use this tool, or you can use a 3/8 ratchet. Since I paid money for the tool, I'm going to go ahead and try that. There's a little spot down inside the tensioner that this slides right into. Let me get this geared up. Now I can relieve pressure from the tensioner. I can grab this serpentine belt. I'm going to just pull it down off the alternator pulley. Now I'm going to carefully relieve pressure of the tool so it doesn't come slapping up and slam my hands into anything. You want to be careful not to get into a pinch point. I'm going to try to remove the tool. Notice my little piece is stuck in there. That's okay. Just going to get mad about it and see if I can break it free. I can even try to bonk it with my tool. It'll just fall and hit the ground, I'm sure, which is okay. I got to hit it. Get that out of the way. I don't want to lose it. Nice. All right, so now we're going to take the serpentine belt off. I'm going to come around this way. Basically, I'm just removing it from all the pulleys as much as I can see from this angle. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move my stool so I can get to the rest of it. Okay, let's see. All right, so now what's holding us on is the fan clutch. This might be a little bit difficult for some people to deal with, but all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this serpentine belt, I'm going to push it in up behind the fan that's up inside here, being very careful. It's just plastic, so it shouldn't cut me, but there could be sharp edges. Yours might be metal. If you have any sharp edges, just please be very careful. Safety first. I'm just going to take it, I'm going to try to put it up and over the fan, just like this. While my hands are in there, I'm going to carefully spin the fan, which will walk the belt down and around. And I'm going to see if I can pull it. Let's see if this worked. I'm going to pull gently, of course. Now we've removed our serpentine belt. Okay, so now we're going to remove the alternator. Make sure our rag's still on there, can get moved around. There's a little plastic cover right here. Just push that down and out of the way. Okay, this shows us this nut right here. We have the battery disconnected, so we don't have to worry about touching this on anything. We're going to use a 13mm wrench, or if you have access to a 1/2 inch, that would work as well. We're going to turn it to the left. Since I'm working from the front, and generally speaking, if I was taking it off, I would be coming from the other side here. I'm going to be working in reverse, so I'm going to be turning to the right. If you're like, Len said left, but he's turning right. Well, that's because I'm working from the other side. Just going to loosen it up. We're going to remove this nut. That's what it looks like. Very nice. Put it someplace where I can find it. I'm going to remove this cable from the back of the alternator, set it aside. The battery's disconnected, so you don't have to worry about it arcing out. I'm going to take my small pocket screwdriver. There's a little red clip right here. This is a lock for this. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to stick it in. Slide that just like that. It was very simple. I just separated it and pushed it. Now there's a little push button right here. I'm going to show you with this screwdriver right there. You can use your thumb, you can use your small screwdriver, whatever you've got. I'm going to hold on to the assembly or the little connector. I'm just going to use my small screwdriver. I'm going to try to push it in, wiggle this around. Now that I've got this disconnected, I'm going to look inside, look for any funny colors. When it comes to vehicles like this, you don't want to have any rainbow colors, so just look for the metal color, okay? We'll set that aside so it can't get crushed or broken. Feel around. I don't feel any other connectors back there, so that's nice. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to remove our 2 mounting bolts for the alternator. To do that, we're going to be using a 15mm socket, and I'm going to be using a 3/8 drive wrench, ratchet, sorry. Just going to go ahead and turn it to the left. Yep, that feels good. Nice and loose. I'm going to try to come over here, put it on the second one. It's hiding. Okay, a little hide and seek. It's a fun game. Everybody played it, hopefully. There we go. I get that loose enough. Now if we want, we can try to grab these by hand, continuing to turn to the left, counterclockwise. I'm going to remove that one bolt. There we are. Set that aside. This one's going to be a little bit harder for me to grab onto with my hands. Let's see if I can weasel my hand in there and grab it. Yeah, looks like I can. Apparently I'm a little bit of a contortionist, so that's kind of neat. I guess you kind of have to be to work on cars. There we are. There's the second bolt. If we want, we can compare them. They're both the same, so which one's which? Who cares? There we go. We can try to wiggle this. You're going to notice it's stuck. I'll show you why. Right over here, there's a little crush washer essentially. So when we're putting this back in, what we're going to do is this piece right here that's kind of almost rusty looking, we're going to try to push this into the alternator a little further and out this direction. And that's so this falls in nice and easy. Then once we tighten this up, it's going to slide this piece back through the alternator and right up against here. So for right now, what we're actually going to do is I'm going to grab a small pry bar, or if you have a screwdriver, not this, something a little bigger and heftier, because I could probably bend this with my hand. I'm going to go right here. I'm going to try to pry it up, see if I can wiggle this alternator, lift it up and out, being very careful not to cut any of these lines right here. These are very important. So I'm going to grab that pry bar and we'll move along. So I got my pry bar, all right? I could probably go with a longer one if I want to, but let's just go with the size that we need. I'm going to come under here, up against the alternator, and this is the alternator bracket. This is part of the engine, really. It kind of just mounts on. But anyways, it's strong enough to pry against. Here we go. It's lifting up fairly easily. Okay, that's as high up as it wants to go at that point. We could try to grab it, wiggle it, shake it, pull it out. If it doesn't come out, we'll have to stick our pry bar down in between here, but let's try this first. I'm going to be very careful of any pinch points. I'm not going to grab right here where this is going to move up and down and pinch me. Safety first. I'm going to see if I can wiggle it. If it doesn't want to wiggle, like I said, we'll just pry it. It's trying. Here we go. Come on, baby. Oh yeah, I love it. And now we've removed our alternator. So we've got our alternator out, right? We're gonna get ready to install it, coming soon. What I wanna do is these are where the mounting bolts came through, right here and right here. This is the nut side, okay? What I wanna do is I wanna take these bushings, I'm gonna spray them with a little bit of penetrant between the bushing and the alternator itself, both of them. Once I do that, I'm gonna take my punch, I'm gonna go like this, and I'm gonna take my hammer, I'm gonna bonk it. I want to try to push these through a little bit. I don't want to go all the way out. That's not what I'm going for. I like to at least get them pushed maybe a little bit closer to flush with the alternator. I'm going to do the same to both. That way there, when we go over the bracket that's on the engine, this will be able to slide over nice and easy. Right now, it's basically already pre-pressed in to where it's going to be up against, so it's going to make it very difficult to get this in and lined up. You're going to end up whacking the alternator with a hammer, try to get it banged down. This is just an easy step. It's going to save you a little bit of aggravation down the line, especially during install. See if I can get a little bit of this to actually spray out. There we go. A little bit there. And you get some spray, and you get some spray. I'm just kidding. All right. I'm going to keep moving my cart across the room. Just going to take my brass punch. You don't want to use something metal, like something super hard, because if you peen this over, you might have a hard time getting your bolt through it. All right? I just went with a brass punch. You can use whatever you've got. I'm just going to whack it down. Easy peasy, right? I didn't try to knock it all the way out. You probably could. Don't bother. Don't waste your time. It's not what it's about. You do this one. Turn it over. Okay. That feels good. Now this is ready for an install. If you wanted to, you can give it a check, give it a spin, listen for any funny noises. You hear something in there, you might want to replace it. You know, if you hear a rattling, maybe whoever put it together, or maybe something came apart, you know, something's in there. But anyway, this spins good. I don't hear any whining or grinding or anything like that. So let's go ahead and install this. All right, so now it's time to go ahead and start getting ready to install our alternator, right? What we want to do is we're just going to double check. We're going to make sure that this is clean. If you want to, you can take a little bit of sandpaper or whatever you might have, rough it up. The other side, make sure it's clean. There's no rust, corrosion, anything. We'll double check in here. Looks nice and shiny. I can see some metal prongs. That's great. That's where it's going to make the electrical connection. If you saw rust, you'd have to do something about it. It's a project for another video, okay? So, I got these all pushed in. Right there. You're going to see what this does. When I come down and in, hopefully, there we are. It's going to slide right over this bracket. Nice and easy. I'm going to move this out of the way a little bit. See how easy that slid over the bracket? If I left those pins out and I didn't drive them back, then this would have had a much harder time. You probably would have been banging and hitting and cussing and just, it would have been a nightmare. So, you're welcome. I showed you how to do that. So here we go. I got this down here, moves around nice and free. I'm going to grab my 2 bolts. We remember they're both the same, so you can mix them up, play a little trick on your buddies, whatever you want to do. Anyway, they're both the same, whatever. Here we go. Slide it through. I'm just going to try to start it in. Just like everything else we've done so far, we have not tightened anything until we got the rest of the bolts that are part of that one unit in at the same time. Basically, if I tighten this up now, before I put this in, I might not be able to move the alternator around. And if this hole isn't exactly lined up, I'm going to go pink, 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 pink. Why? Grab this. Oh, get my hand in there, hopefully. Lift the alternator. I can do that. Get my hand back out. Okay. I'm just going to try to get it started. I'm going to try to use a ratchet. This will help me get in here a little bit easier. It's going to be a 15 millimeter. You can grab that. I'm going to come under here. There we go. It's going in nice. I already have this one started, so while I'm on this bolt, if I want to, I can just go ahead and tighten it right down. What this is going to do is it's going to pull the nut side of the bushing in and through, and it's going to compress it up against this bracket right here, so you'll have a nice secure alternator. Okay. Now, there's no real torque specification for this, so we're just going to bottom it out, and then just give it a little bit more, and then just a little bit more, okay? We don't need to keep going after this. If you wanted to, you could use a little bit of thread locker. That's your preference. For the purpose of this video, I'm not going to worry about it. Give our alternator a shake. That feels great. All right, now we're clear to start connecting some stuff here. Now we'll run our belt. So we've got our connectors. I'm gonna feel around. There's only 2, so we really shouldn't have too much of a problem. If we do, well, then we got bigger problems, right? Anyway, I'm gonna get this in. That bottomed out, okay? got my nut with a 13 millimeter. Come right here, get that down by hand. I'm gonna snug it right up. Just grab my tool. Put it on my ratchet. Now for this, I don't want any real pressure, so I'm not going to use my long-handled ratchet and go all the way down at the end, because even though it doesn't feel like I'm really pulling very hard, I have a lot of leverage here. With enough leverage, theoretically, you could probably move the world. So I'm just going to grab it up close. That feels pretty good, okay? You can give it a little bit more if you want. We don't want to go too much, because that will break off internally inside your alternator. And then you're going to be watching the video of how to replace this again, or you could probably just remember because it's fairly basic. We're going to take our little electrical connector cover. We're going to bring it around back. Drop it down there where we can barely find it, but I'm going to pull it up anyway. There we are. Click that in. Move these out of your way so you can see. We've got this right here. And listen for a click, okay? There it is. We got our lock. Click, click, tug, tug, feels good. Push that over. We've got one more electrical connector. This goes up here like we said before. Here we are. So now let's grab our serpentine belt and we're gonna put that on there. We should be good to go to keep moving. We've got our serpentine belt, new or old, whatever you're using. We're gonna go back over the fan first. Remember we had to take it off over the fan? Now we're gonna go back over the fan first before we start running it on any pulleys, okay? So I'm just going to take it, see what I can do about getting it over all the way around. There we are. So now we're into the pulley area, okay? The whole belt's out of the fan shroud. We don't have to worry about it getting caught. We were very careful not to get our fingers caught in there. So now we need to try to think back to the way that we took this off. If you didn't draw a picture, take a picture, whatever, just watch this video and I'm going to show you how to do it, okay? So I'm going to go over the fan pulley first, because we know that it goes over that. I'm going to take this and bring it over the tensioner and then back and over the crank. It's going to be hard to reach. Very hard to reach because I'm short. I'm going to climb up. Okay. Get my hand down in here. Being very careful not to cut myself. Safety first. And bring it up and over this pulley. Fell off that. That's okay. It's going to happen. It's going to keep falling off. You're just going to keep putting it back on, okay? Keep your patience. Okay. We have it approximately where we know it needs to go. I'm just going to double check where it's riding on the pulleys. You want to make sure it's sitting inside all the grooves on all of your pulleys. Like I said, it's going to keep falling off. That's okay. You don't mind. It's just part of it. It's part of the fun, right? Put this up on here. This up on here. Now I'm going to grab my tool and then we're going to make pressure with it, or relieve pressure, I guess, of the tensioner. And then we're going to get our belt over the last pulley. Alright, so we got our belts kind of laying over all our pulleys here. We got it, for the most part, inside all the grooves. We're going to recheck it, but right now what we're going to do is we're going to take our left hand, we're going to take this part of the belt and try to put it around this side of the smooth pulley. It's going to be difficult. We're going to need to push down on our serpentine belt tool, or ratchet, whatever you're using, to relieve pressure from the tensioner. And then we're going to try to work the belt from along the outside of this and then over that. Okay, so the back side of the belt, it's going to go on the smooth side of this pulley. Here we go. Good luck to you. Good luck to me. Let's do it. Push down. Grab this belt. Okay. I'm just going to take a peek while I have the tension released. Looks pretty good. I'm going to come up nice and slow. You don't want to let that tensioner slap back, okay? I'm going to try to get my tool off of there completely. There it is. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and connect in this hose. It just goes right back here with the male end. Then you get the rubber side, that goes over to your air filter. So all I'm gonna do, I'm gonna try to wiggle it, slide it in, perfect. This just lays across the top of your engine, and it's gonna come out through the slot that's inside the cover that we're gonna be putting on in a second, okay? So I'll just set it here for now, and we can maneuver it whichever way it has to go. I'll grab my cover. Get it up on here. Let's take a look at it. Nice and beautiful. We'll look over here. We've got 2 prongs, okay? And 2 rubbers. The prongs go into the rubbers that are on the top of the intake in the back there. And these 2 rubbers that are on the cover, one goes here on this prong, one goes over here on this prong, okay? We've got this right here, this comes up through here. So it makes it pretty easy to figure out where it goes. On the top side, you'll notice there's a couple of arrows. These are so you can shoot a bull. Come right in. We're gonna come in from the top at an angle. We're gonna aim those arrows directly at those 2 rubbers back there. Try to work this in. Give it a little push if we need to. I'm gonna look underneath. I'm gonna grab this, get it up where we need it. Okay. Now as we come down, we wanna be trying to feel as we push. There's 2 rubbers that are up in here, right? They need to go onto those prongs. We should feel it, kind of like latch in a little bit. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. So we got this lined up. We still got our rag in here. We'll get our connector out of the way, bring it back up here so we don't forget about it under there, whatever. Now we'll move on to putting on the intake. Okay, so here we go. Now I'm gonna take this out. We're just gonna take a double peek in there. Make sure nothing fell in there. There's no nuts, bolts, acorns, extra debris. You don't want to push on that butterfly. See if you can see inside there. There's nothing pretty in there to look at. Just don't push on it, okay? We're just cleaning around it. Now what I want to do, I'm going to take my nice beautiful air filter that I took out. I'm going to put it back in, okay? Should just go into the box. I'll come around here in a second. Clip out of the way. Nice, that looks great. Perfect. Okay. We've got our air filter housing. Got our connector right here. That goes to here, right? This goes onto there. This goes onto there. These go over these prongs. So here we go. Put it up on there. I'm gonna make sure that it bottoms all the way out. I'm not gonna tighten this clamp yet. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna get everything else situated, then I'm gonna tighten the clamp, and then I'm gonna do this. We're gonna do the electrical connector last. As we're shaking things around, we don't wanna give this any tugs. To do this air filter box, to put it back in, we're gonna need to lift this part right here up, this part down, scoop it in over these nubs, okay? Once you make sure you get all those in, and they are, I'm gonna push down with all my might. Not really all my might, but some of my might. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna lock down all these clips right here. There's 4 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes the ones on the side can be very difficult, especially when you're coming from this angle. This one's the hardest. You'll have to bear with me. Okay, we've got this right here. Just slides right on. We're just gonna give this a little wiggle. That's the whole box moving inside the rubbers, so that's good. It's supposed to do that a little bit, but we wanna make sure that this part of the box does not lift up. If it lifts up, you probably missed your slots. If you don't get it in the slots, it's not gonna make a good seal. You're gonna be sucking dirty air past the air filter, so the air filter is gonna be useless. It's gonna come up in here, and it's gonna ruin basically everything we just did underneath there, okay? So now I'm gonna come back around the front side of the engine. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna tighten up that clamp. I'm gonna use an 8mm with an extension and a 1/4" ratchet. You can also use a flathead screwdriver. Flathead might slip a little bit. You're probably not gonna get it very tight. I would just go with an 8mm, save yourself the hassle. Now we're gonna take our little electrical connector and plug it in there, okay? So I've got my little 8mm, got a swivel extension, or swivel on my extension with my 1/4" ratchet. We don't need very much leverage. We're not going all the way out here with a nice long ratchet. We're just gonna snug up this clamp so we can't move the hose. The hose is all the way down. We confirmed. You can get at this however you want to. You might not even need to use an extension and a swivel and all that stuff. This is just my preference. You do you, boo-boo. Okay, you get this snug. Feels like it's getting snug. Just give it a little bit more. Should be pretty good. I'm gonna grab it, wiggle it. If you can grab it, wiggle it, and it pops right off, put it back down. Tighten it up a little bit more, okay? I'm gonna take this. Oh, by the way, if you tighten up that clamp too much and you feel it strip out, bonk, bonk, and all of a sudden it's not tightening anymore, you need to replace that clamp. You can get them anywhere, but you need to replace the clamp. This needs to be tight. You do not want any dirty air getting past your air filter, getting sucked into your engine, okay? So here we go. Clamp, click. There's no lock on that one. Give her a tug. We'll just double check all of our electrical wires here. Make sure nothing's flopping around. It can't get into the serpentine belt. We didn't leave any tools under here. We'll check all up along the cowl. I still got some stuff, but that's, I'm not there yet. But that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna double check everything now, okay? So now it's time to reconnect the battery. We removed the negative battery terminal to start our process. So now to end the process, we're gonna connect the negative battery terminal. If you happen to see your battery terminals corroded, or if they look like they have a film of any sort on it, you can go ahead and use a tool that looks like this. This would be for cleaning the battery side. If you had a wire brush or something, you could try to clean inside there. Basically what it comes down to is making a good connection between the battery terminal and the terminal end, okay? This one's in decent shape, so I don't have to worry about it, but if I did, I would just do this, do that a whole bunch of times, make it nice and pretty. Take off my cover, take my little wire brush, do that a bunch of times, make it nice and pretty, okay? We're not gonna worry about it. I just wanted to make sure that I let you know about that. If it is gunked up, dirty, corroded, doesn't look great, like it's gonna make a good connection, just go ahead and clean it up, okay? And if this one's bad, well, probably that one is too. It couldn't hurt to have this one off still, remove this one, clean that up, put it back on, and then go back to your negative. So here we go. We've got our 10mm. We've got our 10mm nut here. I'm just gonna get it kind of close so I don't have to ratchet for days. Remember what I said, when we go to make this connection, you might see and or hear a little arc or a spark. Don't be scared. Just connect it on, don't put it on, jump off. Put it on jump off. Just one time, okay? You can do it. You're not gonna get electrocuted, it's not gonna, cause you brain damage or anything, hopefully. I don't think California knows that it will, so let's go, here we go. I heard it, got a little snippet. Just gonna go ahead and tighten this down. Should start feeling a little snug. As always, we'll give it a little wiggle. Feels great.
Thanks for watching. Visit 1aauto.com, your place for DIY auto repairs, for great parts, great service, and more content.